So Lorcana has been out for about a year, and it's still kicking around, I guess, though I can't say that it has that sort of same enthusiasm that it used to have, especially not in the realm of things like starter decks or prepackaged product. I mean, we're up to set 6 by now, and yet all of the stores I go to are still choking on stuff from set 3, so I think it's safe to say that Lorcana's, initially really expensive hype and high price point have kind of blocked it out from establishing a permanently growing audience. Which is why Ravensburger sought to solve this problem with the Gateway Box, a box full of a pair of demo decks and detailed tutorials to help people learn how to play, played on top of a hard cardboard surface and contained inside this board game-shaped box. Wait, this is just Lorcana's version of the Pokemon Battle Academy box, isn't it?
Now, I actually took a look at the Pokemon Academy box back in my tutorial video about tutorials, a similar sort of easy starting point for people to learn how to play Pokemon. In that video, I pointed out the box's shortcomings, between its lack of status markers, its decks being only sort of okay, and its tutorials actually being really bad. The actual contents of the box may not have been the best, but the presentation of the box is worth noting. The way the door opens, revealing just the components you need to play the moment the board is lifted. The permanent board and insert, the secret hidden third deck underneath the rulebooks once you pick them up, and even space for a fourth one if you go on to buy a regular starter deck, along with additional space for more coins and damage counters. I mean, just the board on its own made this a worthwhile purchase. While the contents of the box are merely okay, the presentation of the goodies as they are opened and taken out is commendable. And if any company can be seen as synonymous with presentation, it would be Disney. Hopefully we can get a hint of that polish here and... Wait, isn't this box a tad... small? I mean, it's closer in size to those old Fantasy Flight boxes I always made fun of before they finally got fed up with all the teasing and gave us boxes we can actually use. That's ominous. Anyway, let's lift the lid and, okay, read this first, not a bad start, seems a little thin for a play guide. And next, okay, a guidebook. Is this different from the rulebook? Is this the actual rulebook? And after that, a pair of deck guides. Are these the tutorials? Seem a bit small. Now we're starting to feel like those movies with too many studio logos in the opening.
Here we go. Movie! Well, now that seems intentionally misleading.
And after that, a token sheet with way too much unused space. I mean, I'm looking up here and I see space for, if not more damage counters, maybe modifier tokens, status tokens, other handy gubbins. Man, you could fit a pair of lore dials on here, heaven forbid.
You know, those sorts of things that would make this a desirable purchase for everybody?
And next, the board. If there's anything that counts as a major selling point for the Academy box, it's the hard board it contains. The first one sold widespread, if I recall correctly, and it's got some nice space, but why is there only one lore track? Why is it so thin? And why does it move right down the middle? Anyway, if you peek within the Read Me First guides, you'll get instructions to not shuffle the decks the first time you play, and no tutorial. That is being left up to a QR code. Sure hope you're not trying to learn this game on your local game store's Wi-Fi. On it, we get a video to watch. So let's review it with my basic standards. 1. Each turn teaches a new lesson. 2. The actions of the players must make sense. And 3. There's a hint of drama to spice things up. Now, as a 2-player tutorial, drama is a smidge less important than balance, but I'd still like the moments where each lesson is learned to have a bit of bite to them.
Here comes the fun part. Draw the first 7 cards from the top of your deck. After you're done oohing and awing over the amazing card art...
Blow off! Okay, you want to know why I really don't like Lorcana? They just summed it up in one line for me. Never mind their derivative rules and basic lack of interaction, what bothers me is their snobby sense of self-importance. Ooh, we're a special game. We get to charge extra for everything we make because we are so much better than those rabble games. Heaven forbid any of you like the artwork from Pokemon or Magic or Digimon, or heaven forbid we're one of the chumps who actually created art for those franchises. Also, Pete exists. I'm sorry, but you can't try to say that the artwork is great when this card exists. This is a super rare. It's supposed to be one of the money cards, and it looks this bad. Well, guess the tutorial ends here, folks. That one line was so terrible and cringe that I cannot bring myself to make it past the oohing and ahhing phase of setup. So, good night, everybody. I mean, was this line necessary at all? Honestly, something like, after spending some time getting acquainted with your handful of new friends, it's time to start playing, would have been less cringe. I mean, at least that carries a bit of whimsy.
Look 2/3 of the way down the card. Actions are labeled as
Wait,
such.
are they playing cards? Have they started?
Now that you've got your eyes riveted on
Jeez.
your cards, both players should also have one card that is uninkable. Can you find this card? The honey sweet character with a strength of 5. The other.
I mean,
can
are
surf
we
around
are
their
we
current
playing it?
hand
Is this how we
to come
play?
up with
They
a
keep
strength
putting
of 3.
cards out, and
Walk you through a few turns.
oh, I
Before we
guess
do,
not.
shuffle your decks on your first
Okay, let me break down what just happened here. The first third of this video is the rules equivalent of an exposition dump. It's a whole lot of information without that much context. Now, while this does not really tick off one of my major factors in how to make a good tutorial, it instead travels all the way back to the fundamentals of writing rules themselves. Present the rules in the order that the players need them. Especially in a video like this, you need to format the lessons in a way that flows naturally from the game so people can move as they learn. Like, they're over here talking about actions and ink and lore, and I'm just over here chewing on the corner of my Mickey Mouse card waiting for them to get on with it already. But at least now they're playing. Now, starting at 3 minutes 40 seconds, they show how to add a resource card to your resource row. You know what? Now would have been the time to introduce the concept of non-inkable cards, where it is relevant to the actions being taken in the tutorial. Well, I will give the writers one thing. At least they point out why they chose this particular card to get inked. Let's see if that keeps up. Wait, what's an opponent? That says opponent. I mean, I know what an opponent is, but... They then follow this with the opening of every Lorcana game for the past year, if I understand this correctly. Again, this would have been the time to explain play costs.
Exerting means to enact an action of a card.
What? Huh? In English, please? Do remember that I am stupid. I mean, were you trying to say something like, exerting a card means turning it sideways to show that it has been used up for the turn? Then maybe write it like that rather than whatever that was that you just said?
Now, take Rabbit, Reluctant Host, and ink them into your inkwell.
Not gonna explain why we're putting Rabbit into our ink, eh? I mean, I guess I'll let this one slide because Rabbit has the same ink cost as Pooh, so I assume they think we're clever clogs who will notice such a small detail.
Play Minnie Mouse, always classy. And yes, no matter what form she's in, she is always classy. Take Mickey Mouse, True Friend, and place it face down and vertically upright in the inkwell.
No. I mean, no! Why on earth would I do that? Mickey Mouse here is the best card I have in my hand and the only one that costs 3 ink to put into play. I may be a dumb newbie when it comes to Lorcana, but I understand what tempo is, okay? And Mickey Mouse, he's the mascot of the company. Why would I just kind of so flippantly throw him aside? No, I'm not going to do that. Daisy Duck is the one getting inked instead. Actually, there's a reason they'd want you to ink Mickey Mouse, and it is the dumbest thing.
Rotate them to pay for and play Minnie Mouse, Beloved Princess.
That's fine. At least they didn't do something stupid like pointlessly cast I'm Stuck for no reason or anything.
Let's have you quest for your first lore. Exert the card to quest by rotating him horizontally.
This would be when to tell me what lore is, how to see how much each character makes, and how to obtain it. I also feel the need to point out that these huge movers on this tiny track in between the players is a pain. I don't know if it's because these plastic bases are a standard size, but having the track like this where pawn placement is often unclear makes for a bit of a hassle. It really only works for Digimon because there's only one mover on it. Better off would have been to put the tracks to one side, or, you know, use dials made out of this incredible empty space on the token sheet.
Let's get right to the fun, shall we? With your first challenge.
No, let's play an ink first. And why would Minnie want to swing at Stitch anyway? Unless you can defeat the character in one go, all Minnie is doing is taking more damage than she dishes out and leaving herself open for reprisal. But what if I play this little card called He's Got a Sword? So if I were to move the lesson about action cards to this turn and make it so that Minnie could defeat Stitch in a single blow, oh ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour. Yeah, I'm actually not gonna do that. Now, it would have been a better move than what they come up with later, and believe me, we will get to that, but I am actually going to stick with their intended turn and just make it better. I am going to have Minnie swing for lore, because this means she's at full health as I play Anna like the tutorial does. Now, I get Anna's lore bonus unless my opponent devotes both of their attacks to ousting Minnie, which a smart player might actually do, and would be how the follow-up turn would go for me once I have Mickey hit the field. So that's two possibilities. Either we learn how to play actions and learn about both combat and knockout, or the player playing Anna shows even the slightest bit of self-preservation. But let's get back to this thing, where the card that activates Anna's ability is on death's door for no good reason. Now, it would make sense for the turn 3 player to finish Minnie off, as literally either of their characters can do it and it puts them in a better position, as long as they don't do something totally stupid, like pointlessly waste a card on a half-dead nothing burger of a threat like...
Then play another 1 ink for I'm Stuck. This card's ability lets you prevent one of your opponent's characters from readying. Apply that ability to Minnie Mouse, always classy.
Are you kidding me? Literally either of their characters in play could have stomped Minnie Mouse into dust for little reprisal and not sacrificed both a good card meant for a larger target, but sacrificed their tempo in the process. And why did you ink Stitch Alien Dancer despite having the resources to play him in your very own example? I'm not gonna do that. Stitch finishes off Minnie Mouse Princess quests for lore, play Mickey Mouse, pass turn. Okay, in case you were wondering, this is why they wanted us to ink Mickey Mouse before, so that he wouldn't be an option to play and we would have to do their incredibly stupid turn instead. Also, this card's effect would have been a good thing to have as a token printed somewhere in this massive void of space on the token sheet to help me remember because, you know, I'm stupid like that, I'm a new player, and I will probably forget.
I think by now you're getting the hang of it, and I will leave you to it to play out the rest of this round. Please.
That was awful. What started with a boring exposition dump seemed like it would turn itself around until they told me to ink Mickey, then it fell for the old trap of doing stuff just to explain the rules, something I went out of my way to make fun of in my own video. You should demonstrate these things at the times where they have the most impact, because then people will see the importance of those mechanics. This is like those annoying mobile ads where the game is shown being played in the most incompetent fashion, only this time you paid $25 for the privilege of seeing it. And I still don't know what a keyword is. I mean, I guess the Academy box didn't tell me what an ability was either, but these decks actually have keywords in them. Also, Opponent. Biggest entertainment company in the world, folks. Another thing that the video left out is that after you finish watching the video, you are supposed to switch over to the guidebook for the rest of the learning session. The video has it as a sort of offhand suggestion at the end of these poorly parsed bullet points, That is not one thing, those are two separate things, they should each get their own bullet points. In reality, this book needs to hit the table the moment the guided tutorial video ends. You know, something like, "Now it's time to continue your adventure in the enclosed guidebook, where you will clear special challenges and unlock new card types for your deck. By the end, both of you will have a complete 60-card deck that you can use for real games of Disney Lorcana. Have fun!" Now, this guidebook itself is just a blurb, some challenges that might be pulled off after playing the game for several hours, and then moves on to a next list of challenges, giving basic lip service to the other types of cards introduced. Not tied into the tutorial, but added later. Also, they lack a complete list of how the cards were ordered in these decks for the first game. Thank you, Musha Report, for understanding the assignment.
And this matters because the tutorial involves using cards that you draw throughout the course of the game, whose order the instructions do not tell you to set, so if you did accidentally shuffle the decks and go back to their recommended hand, you will still be totally lost.
And to note, I did play a game using this tutorial from this box labeled 8+, with an actual 8-year-old, a relative of mine, and while he did seem to figure out the game fairly well, even he knew that the instructions being given by the game were kind of lame, and that the movement pieces were bad with how they block the view of your opponent's side of the field. Like, he and his younger sister were more interested in the card art than the actual game. And he was the one who wound up winning, actually. Kid already played Magic and Pokemon, so maybe not the best raw test of this tutorial's ability, but still. And yes, we used the Frozen and Carbonite token made by Buy the Same Token for the I'm Stuck effect. Good thing too, as I am a new player and actually did forget. And the guidebook really didn't help. My nephew struggled to understand the concept of a song no matter how many times he asked how it worked. The phrase, "sing this song for free," specifically kept tripping him up. Was "play this card for free" really that hard to write? Now, I'm sure I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Okay, wise guy, you think you can do better than what they put out? Well, I think so. Here's a little something off the top of my head. Let's say instead of the yellow and purple deck, we have the red and blue deck goes first, and they play Olaf. Alright, so we get him into play. Then it's the yellow and purple player's turn, they play Stitch. And then on the red and blue player's turn, they have Olaf, Quest for Lore, so we learn what that's all about. We also, play Anna, sticking to that strategy there, and then on the yellow and purple's turn, they have Stitch kill off Olaf.
Oh, look at that. I've been impaled.
So we learn about combat and how that little bit of lingering damage goes behind, and this might have been a mistake, because now that leaves Stitch in Anna's threat range. Good thing a little Healing Glow action card can solve that little dilemma there, along with playing Daisy Duck, but then now that Anna cannot swing at Stitch, we have the surprise of Mickey Mouse coming in, and he's a hero who buffs Anna's ability to gather more lore. So, red and blue is doing a pretty good job of gaining lore, but now it's time for Mickey Mouse, and the catch-up begins. So, there. But now let's actually get into the cards. Now, as a stupid newbie with no concept of what cards in the game are actually good or desirable, I am not entirely sure how to weigh in here. Going by the lists, each deck is granted 10 rare cards and 3 super rare cards, though again there's no real telling how good any of them are on the surface, though I guess it does make these decks better than, say, 3 decks which contain maybe 1 good card each, and even then they're all in trainer cards. So the super rares are Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, who becomes a 2-cost card who swings for 3 lore if you have 3 characters in play, which can be done the first turn Piglet can swing for a big hit. Not sure if this is super rare worthy of an effect, but it is pretty good though. Stitch Rockstar, which to my understanding was pretty important card in the first set, not sure how it measures up now. Minnie Mouse Musketeer Captain, who acts as a point of spot removal on play. Ariel, Adventurous Collector, who has Evasive and can give an ally Evasive when playing a song, allowing a big lore gatherer to swing at low risk. Aurora, Dreaming Guardian, who gives all of your characters but herself protection from enemy effects. And Anna, True Hearted, who gives all of your heroes +1 lore. Gonna be honest, of all of those, only Stitch and Aurora really felt like cards for a super rare slot. The others may be rare at best, and checking, apparently only Stitch and Piglet are worth more than $1. That is, assuming the rare cards aren't just characters with big numbers on them. Of course they are. Well, actually, Merlin is apparently $3 and Madam Mim is $5, presumably because she recycles on-play effects and is inkable with Rush. Let It Go is $2 for being inkable removal, and Teeth and Ambitions is $1 for the same reason. 6 cards in this whole set are worth more than $1. A tiny pile of edge case cards with no clear win condition. Yeah, another thing is that the decks have some pretty serious consistency problems. Neither of these decks have any cards at full playset. Heck, they don't have anything beyond half playset. Call the Academy decks bad all you like, but at least they had consistency with loads of cards, including important staple trainer cards, at full playset. They're playable the way a real deck would be, is what I'm saying. Meanwhile, these decks, with their sporadic assortment of character types and evolution cards, called shifts in this game, means that the decks will have a hard time getting things going. I mean, there's even cards that are functionally identical in here, but different because reasons! This can somewhat be blamed on the delivery system for this game, the revolutionary idea of having curated booster packs inside of every box. As the game's tutorial missions go on, players will open a variety of 4 18-card booster packs meant to be split evenly between the two players to add directly into the decks. Honestly, I'm a little surprised they didn't try using actual booster foil for these. I do like the idea of upgrading the decks over time by basically opening a booster pack or two, catching on to the idea that a booster pack is the best starter deck sweetener, and by the end, both players have enough to make a legal 60-card deck. However, I do think this is the source of the problem with deck consistency, as the designers of the game wanted to avoid including reprints in these packs to avoid deflating the sensation of opening them. This, however, did have the effect of crushing the consistency of the decks themselves, which I guess they're not supposed to be the winningest decks on their own, but I do feel that they would be more fun if they were more stable. Starter decks that struggled to be fun on their own was a big sagging point on Lorcana's release, I've heard. I don't know, do they expect us to buy 2 and get decent quantities of everything? I mean, the boxes are like $12 now, so not that hard. And come to think of it, what's the point of this set anyway? You can tell me that it was meant to be a starter kit for new players all you want, but why is it built the way that it's built? Why is it in a big permanent box when the inner workings are so roughshod? Again, going back to the Pokemon Academy box, while the decks inside weren't really anything to write home about, it's built like a permanent structure, with a solid plastic interior and a space for a 4th deck and a gaggle more tokens and coins. It's something you keep around even after the tutorials are over. This thing? It's a pale imitation, a corporate product going through the motions with its cheap cardboard insert that was already falling apart the day I bought it. About as well thought out as the Ursula raid set, an overpriced monstrosity that completely lost its luster once it was revealed that the super secret prize card was an ordinary rare worth $1 on the secondary market. Yeah, not the version from the actual card set, the special edition one from this box. The one from the actual set is 10 cents. Sure hope you aren't regretting dropping $60 on this. The Onyxia raid deck, this ain't. The Ursula box is barely selling at cost, and it technically contains way better decks than the Gateway, which is currently also going for cost. Seems I'm not the only one who noticed this thing sucked. I guess that's why they tried to goad you into buying 2 of them. And I mean, that seems to be a huge problem with Lorcana as a whole. People are fixating mostly on the expensive money cards, but any sort of experience the game's designers try to deliver on their own seems to fall horribly flat. The starter decks are faring no better, and are the things most stubborn on store shelves aside from the Gateway box itself. So I guess, in conclusion, this thing is not worth your money, at least not at full price. Maybe if it's being sold at cost, but even then it's only for a scant few cards, which is never a good enough reason to buy a set this big. Doesn't help that the board is badly designed with how the lore counters march in the way of being able to see what your opponent is doing, and the token sheet wastes so much space where things like modifier tokens or lore tiles could have gone. This is while I would say that the Pokemon Battle Academy box is worth a purchase in every incarnation, even if just for the well-designed board and storage. You also get 3 decks for the same price that Lorcana offers 2, and Pokemon starter decks are still a kid-friendly $10. The Iron Leaves one is actually pretty good, though you can also drop 20 on something fancier if you are so inclined. The one good thing I will say about this box is the booster packs you add to your decks as the tutorials go on. If better executed, this might be a good way to help people understand how a trading card game is supposed to work, and a more sophisticated one might also include substitutions and a hint of actual building to it. But as for the actual tutorial, it is yet another script that goes through the motions without purpose and, as a result, lessens the impact of certain cards and choices, which could cause people to make the mistake of thinking that those things don't hold value when it comes to strategy. Every new mechanic introduced should feel like it makes a big difference in the proceedings, where a situation can seem inescapable until something new flips the script. That way, new players will weigh every possibility when considering moves or deck building. I did a whole video about how to make these for a reason.
Yes.
Like everything else about the game, the Lorcana Gateway box is puffed up and pompous, and while it does feature popular characters like Mickey, Stitch, and Elsa, there isn't really enough thought put into it to take proper advantage of them. And while I do appreciate the addition of more cards as you play, the actual written lessons are kinda pathetic at helping people understand the game, and the box itself, with how poorly it's designed as storage, has no reason to exist. Yet again, Pokemon is eating this game's lunch.